Hey friends, welcome back to Big Nate's Whiskey Lounge. I am Nate, and today I'm going to be looking into two bottles that hit the market recently that I was really excited about, and I was even more excited when I saw them in my area, and also the price point that I got them for. So this is going to be Redwood Empire. This is going to be their Rocket Top Rye, as well as their Grizzly Beast Bourbon. These are both straight rye whiskey, straight bourbon whiskey. They're both bottled in bond, so we know that they're at least 4 years old. Now, what's really cool about these, so Redwood Empire, and as we go through the video, I have the other three main bottles here. I'll pull them out and show you guys in a minute. Actually, you know what? I'll do that now. So Redwood Empire was very famous for some of their blends that they would do. They would source stuff, they would blend stuff. This is their rye. So this is Emerald Giant Rye Whiskey, and this is distilled in California and Indiana, so probably some of their own stuff, as well as some stuff from MGP. This is 90 proof, 45%, and this was aged at least 4 years. So that's this is the Emerald Giant Rye Whiskey. Very good rye whiskey if you want to give that a try. Really good color on that too, that's really impressive. Then they have a bourbon and then a burr rye. So this is their bourbon. This is Pipe Dream. This is bourbon whiskey. This also was aged at least 4 years. And this comes from California, so probably their own stuff. Indiana, probably MGP. Kentucky, maybe Bardstown or Barton. Barton is what I meant to say. Maybe Barton. And Tennessee means it's probably Dickel. This also is 90 proof, 45%. That's a really good whiskey too. This was one of my favorites for a while, more toward the beginning of the year. I found it, and this is very available in my area. Almost every store I can see it in, so that's really good. And then they have a burr rye. Now a burr rye simply means it's half bourbon and half rye. So they've taken a legally produced bourbon, legally produced rye, and they blend them together. So they're not bourbon, they're not rye. They call it a burr rye. And so this is a Lost Monarch. It's called a blend of straight whiskeys. They can't really even call it, we call them burr ryes, and actually High West has, they call it burr rye, but that's the title of it. They can't legally call it that. Now this is aged at least 3 years. So it's a blend of straight rye and a blend of bourbon. And this comes from, where is the sourcing? Just says bottled by, aged at least 3 years. Interesting. This one, and I'm trying to go quick because I don't want to take up much of the video time here. There's really cool stories on these two. Redwood Empire being from California, you know, the really large redwood trees, which is really, really cool. But anyway, we're talking about the two bottles that are their own distillate. So the first three, the three I just went through, are their juice plus others' sourced juice. These two are specifically just theirs. So this is the Grizzly Beast Straight Bourbon Whiskey, bottled in bond, which means one distillery, all the grain comes from one growing season. It is aged a minimum of 4 years. It is aged in federally supervised rick houses, and it is bottled at exactly 100 proof. Now, so what's really cool is they give the really cool notes on here. This was actually aged for 5 years, and this was distilling season spring of, so the grains come from spring of 2016. It was bottled in summer of 2021, so this year. The lot size, there were 26 barrels used, and this is batch number 1, and this is actually bottle number 1,254. That's really cool. On the faux tax strip up there, they have it. And it gives the mash bill. Love that. 69% corn, 22% rye, 5% malted barley, and 4% wheat, which makes it a 4 grain. That's not very common in whiskey. And then it gives a little bit more detail, kind of sprucing up the story of what bottled in bond means, and as well as theirs. So, Grizzly Beast. The Redwood Empire stretches from San Francisco to Humboldt Bay and onto the Oregon border. The region is home to majestic coastal redwoods, some more than 2,000 years old. The name Grizzly Beast is a combination of two trees, the Grizzly Giant, a giant sequoia located in Yosemite National Park that has over 2 billion leaves, and the Mattole, M-A-T-T-O-L-E, Beast, a massive 375-foot coastal redwood located in Humboldt Redwoods State Park. So this is actually named after two specific trees in California, which is cool. And so let's give this. Now I mentioned the price point, so I looked up on Grizzly. So the three bottles that I mentioned that are kind of part of their core line: Emerald Giant, the Rye, Pipe Dream, the Bourbon, and Lost Monarch, the Burr Rye. Those are all priced on Grizzly anyway. They're priced at between $28.99, and Pipe Dream goes from $30 to $80. Emerald Giant goes from $30 to $90, and Lost Monarch goes from $35 to $75. Now, also on Grizzly, it has not a picture of it yet, but it has that the Grizzly Beast, at least on Grizzly, goes from $90 to $200. I purchased this bottle and the Rye at one of my local stores for $79.99. And actually doing some research, I might have to go back for some more bottles, because that is a killer price for these. It is a little expensive, but it is their own juice. So yeah, you normally don't see bottle stuff that much. Well, let's pour a little bit of the bourbon real quick. And as I do that, well, let me sip that on that first. Pretty classic bourbon, a little light on the nose. Caramely, vanilla. I can definitely tell that there's not, well, what's the rye content again? 22% rye. So it is a high rye bourbon. Bourbon has to be minimum 51% corn, and typically the second most used grain is rye. Sometimes it's wheat. You got Maker's Mark and Pappy that are wheaters. But when it comes to rye content, any whiskey that has more than 18% rye in it is usually considered a high rye bourbon. So that is a high rye bourbon. Ooh, it's spicy too. It's a spicy meatball. Shout out to Jason C. from Mash and Drum. Yeah, no, that's really good. Definitely bourbon and high rye. The color on that is just really cool. Really enjoying to sipping this all night. Today when I'm shooting this is Tuesday, November 30th. I've got a something with the podcast in a little bit for the Whiskey Weekend Batch 4. And then we've got the Bourbon Junkies doing their thing. Maybe I'll stick on long enough to hang out with Cheech over at Whiskey Encore. So I'll be sipping on this for a while. That is really good. Really, really good. All right, now to the Rocket Top Straight Rye. So, again, $79.99. Now, Grizzly says going for $76.99 to $129.99. So, like, their low price I paid $3 more for. That's nothing to be ashamed of. Also, it is really popular. Some people are having trouble finding it. If I buy more bottles, and if you guys absolutely cannot get them in your area, reach out to me. I might be able to hand deliver some samples to you guys. You know, for those of you that are local, quote unquote, I'll be able to help you out with that. So this also comes from the distilling, the distilling season is spring of 2016. So again, the grains used come from 2016. Bottling in summer of 2021. There were 26 barrels used, and this is batch number 1. It is bottle number 1,458. Oh, interesting. There's no corn in this. So this also is bottled and bond. This has 87% rye, 7% malted barley, and 6% wheat. That's interesting. Well, the MGP typical rye actually is 95.5, 95 rye, 5% barley. So it's not uncommon for rye whiskey to not have corn in it. So it is interesting that it has wheat. So that's cool. So again, some more story about the Bourbon Bond Act of 1897, stuff like that. The Redwood Empire stretches, it gives the same little thing at the beginning. The region, the Patriarch Forest in Humboldt Redwood State Park is home to Rocket Top, a tree reminiscent of a 365-foot tall bottle rocket. This rye is as complex and extraordinary as the tree it represents, aged for 5 years. Ooh, the color on that is so pretty. If I didn't know, I'd actually say that it was a wine finish because it's kind of got a pinkish hue to it. That's really interesting. Definitely rye, perfumey. I like the smell on that. Definitely rye though. And I like rye. For my birthday party, I went to a whiskey lounge, not a whiskey lounge, but a whiskey bar in downtown Buffalo, which is, I live in the Western New York area. And I decided to treat myself to something special, and they had Van Winkle, the 13-year-old rye. A buddy of mine tried that. It was my first Van Winkle, and it was fantastic. And this is really good. Good job, Redwood Empire. Now, both do taste a little young, and that's okay. A lot of distilleries that do bottled and bond don't typically go much over the 4 years. Let's see, we've got the Henry McKenna back there that is 10. That's one of the highest ages for a bottled and bond that I've seen. Heaven Hill 7 year. Then you've got some others that don't have age statements on them. But a lot of distilleries don't necessarily. Bottled and bond is kind of a dying thing, which is a little sad because it's really cool. But that was Redwood Empire's Rocket Top Straight Rye and Grizzly Beast Straight Bourbon. Fantastic. Good job, Redwood Empire. I'm fantastic that I got those. If you can find a bottle, that's fantastic. If you can find it around the same price that I did, absolute score. It was one of those days where you just nailed it, and it made my day, made my week. So that's going to do it for Big Nate's Whiskey Lounge. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Give me suggestions on if you want to see anything specific, and I'll see you on the next one.